Welcome to But I Digress, a cocktails and conversation podcast with your hosts, Warren Smith and me, Irish Stewart. Come on in, honey.
Hello and welcome to another edition, another podcast of But I Digress. And I didn't swear. Woohoo! That was a good start. I am, of course, Warren, and I'm chatting with, of course, my great friend Irish. How are you today?
I am very giggly, Warren, but I have promised to behave myself through the intro at least. So
Well,
I am doing very well, sir. How are you?
That's good evening. Oh, good evening. How are you? Oh, I'm
Good
very well.
evening. Yeah,
No, I'm doing great. So, yes, look, anyone, if this is the first time listening, this is a But I Digress, a cocktails and conversation podcast where two great friends sit back, have a chat, have a few drinks, and can very, very rarely stay on topic, hence the name. So, well, I suppose just to get started, I mean, since we did our last podcast, there's an awful lot that has happened. There has been a midterm election in the United States. Britain's got a new prime minister. It's looking more and more like the Russians are going to lose the war. There's been a lot actually going on in the world. So
well, let's first talk about the most important thing, though. Let's get that out of the way. Was that I just had a birthday. That's all.
Oh, yes,
so
yes,
that's
yes.
the most important thing that has happened since we talked last.
Did you do anything special or?
Well, I mean, nothing big because I don't know if, I think we've mentioned this before, or I've mentioned this. We haven't. Me and the mouse in my pocket, apparently, mentioned that at this age, I don't really care for receiving gifts from people, like things. What I'm looking for is experiences at this age. I have a lot of things. I've been pretty lucky in that regard. So I want to do things and go places and do stuff like that. So I spent a few hours over at the Gaylord Palms Resort, which is a small toned-down version of the Opryland Hotel Resort that is from Nashville. Now, if you have never been there, it is freaking fantastic inside in Nashville's Opryland Hotel. They have a massive conservatory in the center, huge dome. There's literally a river running through it, restaurants, Cascade waterfalls. A boat runs on the river like a paddle wheel boat. You can take a big one. So it's a massive, massive place. And during the holidays, they do tons and tons of decorations and lights, and it's all inside. So it's climate controlled. So down here, not too far from where I live, there is another resort. It's a smaller version, like I said, of Gaylord Palms. So I went there and had a lovely dinner. It was a 5-star buffet on an indoor, sort of outdoor patio, because, again, it's in the dome, and there were Christmas lights everywhere, and they did a light show over top of it, and it was lovely. So That was very fun. You know me, I like food, so, and and cocktails, and I like to go places, and I like to do things, and I like to see pretty things. So that's what I did.
Oh,
it was very nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good.
Yes.
That's really good.
Thank you for centering on me for a moment. Now we can move on. Now that the important things are out of the way.
Well, was there a cocktail?
I wish I really felt like that. I fake it till I make it.
Was there a cocktail of choice for your birthday, like when you were out?
Yes. Cocktails.
Oh, just it's like bartender, keep them coming.
Actually, I had a hibiscus martini, is what I had. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. A hibiscus margarita. Tub.
Oh, right. Okay.
I should have had one now. I might have been able to speak more clearly. They say you take a test in the same way that you studied for it. So if you were high when you studied, you should be high when you take the test. I feel like if I'm talking about the drink, I should be at least buzzed. So I need another drink. There we go.
So,
No, it was a hibiscus margarita. It was delicious.
hibiscus margarita. I don't think I've
Yes.
I've definitely never had one. It's what is there anything different about it to a normal margarita?
It's made with hibiscuses.
Right. Okay. Well, that put me in
Glad
my
I could
place.
clear that up for you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh, dear.
It had a lovely chili lime salt around the edge, around the rim, and it was in a rocks glass. And so normally here in Orlando, which is tourist mecca, usually if you order a margarita, you have to specify that you don't want it frozen in a monster glass, because everybody is on vacation. They want a frozen drink, and I don't want that. And I also don't want it
Okay.
one shot of tequila in my margarita with 27 ounces of filler. So I like a nice rocks glass margarita because I put the real stuff in there, You can taste it. And I'm not on vacation. I call frozen drinks like that vacation bitch drinks. No offense to any of the vacation bitches out there, okay? But I do not care for frozen cocktails because I feel like, again, I'm not on vacation.
I'm not on vacation. I'm a big fan of there's a YouTuber called I don't know YouTuber, it cheapens it. A guy who runs a YouTube channel because he's also a marketing director of a pharmaceutical company.
Oh, he's still a YouTuber. Come on.
I know. But,
He can wear many hats. It's okay.
But his name's David Zariski, and he's in Pennsylvania. And in the United States, obviously, and he runs a YouTube channel called The Bond Experience, and it's a great channel. If you ever no, we're not talking about Bond, we're talking about drinks. But there was he travels all over the world looking at Bond locations, and he's amazing. Like if you want to know what socks Sean Connery wore in From Russia to Love, he knows. Not only that, he's probably tracked him down and he owns a pair. He's quite an amazing. He's actually he's been on both British
dirty ones, dirty socks.
Yeah, he's actually been on both British and Australian TV talking about not about James Bond, but about James Bond memorabilia. Like buying the clothes and the. All that sort of stuff.
Those sorts of things. Yes.
And but anyway, he was in London recently, and he did a video, and I've forgotten. It's a very famous hotel with bar, and he was in, and it's known as the home of the Fleming martini. So in other words, the original martini, not the James Bond one, but the actual martini that Ian Fleming would drink. And but what was really interesting was that see how I digress. All of this was to lead up to a comment said by a bartender. But the bartender made the comment, and he said, "With your martinis," he said, "never ever shake them over ice." He said, "Keep all of your ingredients in the freezer, and basically just add and stir." And stir
Layer
in
them,
the glass,
yes.
nothing else. You said all the rest of this stuff. All you're doing, he said. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're adding water to this drink. Why would you want to add water to
I agree.
Like he was having all of these amazing gins, and if you are a gin drinker, I mean, apart from just
love it.
There's especially if you're going to try some of the gins from the Netherlands, which I've still got to do. Because they're so so aromatic,
Mm-hmm.
And his comment was, why on earth, if you're buying $100 bottle of gin, are you seriously going to dilute it with water? It makes no sense at all.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, if you're buying cheap gin, sure, go ahead, because it'll probably taste better. But no, I agree. There's some really delicious gins out there, and you just put them in the freezer. And that's the way you serve them, and you pour them straight, and then you mix it that way. But you shouldn't, in my opinion, ever pour a drink over ice that wasn't already cold. Because I do think that just like taking iced tea, here in America we drink a lot of iced tea, okay? But we go to a restaurant to order it, when they take it from the brew machine, which is like a coffee machine, it's very hot, and they fill up the big containers of it, and they pour it directly onto ice in your glass. So when they bring it to your table, there's 3 ice cubes left, and they're maybe an inch across, and everything else is already melted into your tea glass. So you have no ice left.
Yes.
So don't pour warm drinks onto ice if you don't want it watered down. So yeah, that's, again, I'm ranting, but I hate that. I like to keep my drinks in the freezer.
Well, if they're
alcohol.
Yes.
Don't do that with a soda pop or something.
No.
Yes, did I just say soda everywhere. Pop? Like, what is this, 1942? Like, what did I just say?
Well, I thought that was kind of what you did call it in America. You don't call it that?
I guess maybe in some areas. But where I was from, in Nashville, everything is a Coke. Coke is the generic name for soda.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
soda.
So you would say to people, I say soda, but like in school, especially like growing up when I was in Nashville, people would be like, oh, I'm going to go get a Coke. And then they'd come back with a Dr. Pepper. And you'd be like, I thought you were going to get a Coke. They're like, I did. I got a Dr. Pepper.
Ah, that's interesting.
So it just became the generic name for a soda. A can of soda or something.
That's interesting.
Sorry. Again, I'm digressing.
No. Well, that's kind of the name of the podcast. Just in Australia, it's called soft drink, which simply comes from the fact.
Oh yeah, soft drinks. Yeah.
Yeah, it simply means it's not alcohol, so it's soft drink. So you had hard drink.
It's a soft drink and a hard. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I never think about it that way, but yeah.
That's basically where it came from, because you would buy things like lemonades and then later Coke from what we call a milk bar. And milk bars were basically invented because they were a place where you'd go and get a drink that didn't have alcohol in it.
Right. But could you consider Coca-Cola actually a soft drink when it had cocaine in it?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point, isn't it?
That was like the hardest drink. Okay.
But didn't they like kind of stop doing that in about 1920 or something? I mean, it hasn't had cocaine in it for a very long time. But
it led to that great meme of, and we like the old-fashioned imagery of like things in the mother ironing and the little girl, and says, "Grandma says she did a lot more work than you were, when she was your age." And the mother responds, "When in Grandma's day they had cocaine in the sodas."
Yes.
And I'm paraphrasing there, but that's one of my favorite memes.
Well, didn't the original Fanta have speed in it? Like,
I don't know, but it had Nazi goodness in it. That's for fucking sure.
Well, yeah,
Sorry.
I saw I saw it was a video about someone was trying to replicate Fanta, but the original recipe of Fanta, and it doesn't look anything like the drink we have today. And apparently it doesn't taste anything like the drink we have today. It's very different, the original stuff.
Well, now they're making it with high fructose corn syrup and some other things, and, less Nazism. And that's what I'm... It's like...
Fanta.
Now with less fascism. I don't know.
Yeah, that's like Fanta. Now 99% less Nazi.
It's like, taste better. Jesus.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Fanta available only at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, God.
But,
sorry, that was a horrible noise I just made, but you deserved it. The people listening might not, though. So, that's on you, man. But
where I was going is that if I make a martini, the only time I shake it over ice, which I do if I'm making an espresso martini, because you need to cool the whole thing down. And that is
just an iced coffee martini.
Well, basically, yeah, it is actually, isn't it? Really? Yes, it's an iced coffee with vodka. But
yes, it's a spiked iced coffee. That's all. But in a tiny glass for $13.
But if I'm making $13 by $20.
I don't go to this places.
Things are a lot more expensive in Australia though.
I got to get better dates, man. I'll stop. I'm sorry. I only promised to behave through the intro, and that's over.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's long over. Oh dear. But it's but I'll try actually. But there has been a lot actually going on over the last couple of weeks. I mean, you had your midterms in the United States.
Yes.
There's an election happening today as we are recording in Victoria, Australia, which is basically going to be a referendum on lockdowns. Pretty much, that's what people are voting about. So it's very, 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 very interesting, and I know that technically the Republicans kind of had a victory, but it was a pretty shallow fucking victory. I mean, considering the red tsunami they were predicting, they picked up, was it 3 seats in the lower house or something? I mean, was that it?
Off the top of my head, I think they might only be like 3 or 4 seats up. Yes, I'm not sure because, to be honest with you, it's been so stressful that I have not been paying as much attention to the results of things because I'm trying really hard not to watch news 24/7 and doom scroll and do all those things. So I'll be honest, I don't exactly know what the margin was. I do believe that it's very small because I think that Kevin McCarthy could only lose when he was going for speakership, for leadership. He could only lose 4 votes. And I don't know whether or not, honestly, whether he got the votes. I don't think he had them. So I don't think he is up for speakership for sure right now. I don't know. Everything has been very stressful when it comes to whether or not we were going to maintain through this and through the midterms, the Dems. I was really worried. And so to reduce my anxiety, I kind of pulled back from focusing on it. But we did keep the Senate, which is great. And it's going to be right now, though, it's going to be kind of deadlocked because what's going to happen in the House when they get in there is that they're just going to start doing stupid investigations and wasting time and trying to obfuscate because they don't actually have any policies. And then everything will get sent to the Senate and it won't go through, And so it's just going to be kind of a lame duck 2 years at this point. And we have to make sure that we get the Senate back and really give ourselves a good majority. Because if we can do that during the next presidential election, we might actually be able to get some really great things done. Now, don't get me wrong. They have passed some really great legislation. I'll be honest. I've been very surprised with the things the Biden administration has been able to get done and how much it's actually helping. And everybody's going to scream inflation, but inflation is a global issue here. We're not controlling that shit overseas, So his policies are not the things that cause the inflation, but actually his policies are helping with the inflation. So we've actually had some pretty good relief here and there, and they're doing some really good things for the country. Is it fast enough? No, because it will never be fast enough. Are they doing as much as we want? No, because they never will. But as long as they keep moving forward, I'm just really worried now about the next 2 years and just the bullshit that's going to come out of the House.
Yeah.
So that's a shame.
I actually posted. Can I read you a tweet that I actually put up a week ago or something?
Absolutely.
I thought this was an interesting point, but I actually said, hang on, I'm not wearing my glasses, pardon me. I actually said, so the Democrats will fight for democracy by supporting by continuing to support and supplying Ukraine with weapons to fight the Russians. The Republicans will fight democracy by stopping arms supply to Ukraine and instead focusing on investigating Hunter Biden's laptop. Yes. And I kind of thought that summed it up. It's like, well, in my opinion anyway, in a very simplistic way, the idea that you've got one side that actually wants to do something and another side that wants to investigate whether there's pornography on the laptop of the son of the president. And the son of the president, the last time I saw, is not an elected fucking official.
Well, I'd just like to know if they're going to really do that, okay? Because let's be honest. Sometimes people's kids are shitty. All right. I'm not saying Hunter was, okay, or is. But sometimes people's kids are shitty. But we shouldn't cherry pick these things, and they shouldn't be fucking hypocrites, and that's the problem. So start talking to me about Jared and Ivanka and the shit they did.
I mean,
let's
Donald
be
Trump
honest.
Jr. Donald Trump
Jared
Jr.
handed over
yeah.
a U.S. journalist for murder and dismemberment.
Yep.
Now, we're going to want to fucking talk about anything that might be on Hunter Biden's laptop? Give me a break. Give me a break.
Well, this is the thing.
They were making millions and millions while they were the former guy was in the White House.
I find it stunning. I mean, look, you know, are the Bidens 100% clean? Well, they're probably not. I would argue that anyone that gets to the top is never 100% clean. But the whole concept is the idea that you would investigate the Biden family for corruption or bad doing or whatever the hell it is. But this is coming from a moral statement from the Trump family. The Trump family, who are literally practicing crimes in clear daylight. You know what I mean?
Every accusation is a confession. That's what it is.
Yeah. It blows my mind that. It really does. That, you know, if you complain, I mean, look, I've got no idea whether Hunter Biden's a good or a bad person. I mean, I'm sure he's made, from what I gather, he's made a lot of bad
I don't
decisions.
give a
shit. But the whole point is that, have you seen one of Donald Trump Jr.'s videos when he's high on fucking cocaine talking through, you know? I mean, fuck me. You know, I mean, and they're complaining about the drug use of Hunter Biden. I mean, the thing that blows my mind...
Well, the difference is that they know Hunter had those issues because, of course, they released that video or that recording of President Biden talking to his son and telling him nice things and being a caring father who cared about a kid who was having problems. And the right wanted to turn that into something cheap and like it was embarrassing and wimpy. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that your parents didn't love you enough to give a shit when you were having problems. And you can't tell me that they weren't having problems because everybody on this planet is just a different degree of broken. So everybody has their issues.
I mean, you're right. You are so right. But for me, the hypocrisy of Donald Trump Jr., who is clearly on some, I don't know if it's cocaine, but he is clearly on some sort of medication of some description, making these rants while his eyes are dripping and he's making these rants about the drug use of Hunter Biden. It's like someone sort of saying, I'm a drug addict, and I'll complain about another drug addict. It's like, what the fuck? And the other thing too.
Well, again, they're just pointing the finger to keep the views off of them.
Yeah, you know? and it's like, and the other thing too is, my understanding of Hunter Biden is he was a drug addict. He is not currently a drug addict.
Yeah.
You know.
No, they just want to diminish people, and they want to label them as the worst part of who they've ever been for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That's what they want. Because to them, using that as fodder for their political gain, to them, the ends justify the means, no matter what their behavior is. That's the same reason evangelicals would vote for people on the right. It's because even if they thought that the former guy was a piece of shit, they still think that it was the way to get what they wanted in the end. So they're willing to do it. Yes. They're willing to do it. And I have a problem with that kind of thinking.
Yeah. Yes. The only thing was, it was very nice to actually see that although the Republicans made some gains, it was from what we were told in Australia, it was the best defence of the House, of Congress. I think you call it, don't you? The Senate and the House together is called Congress. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So it was the best defence of Congress by any political party that holds the presidency since 1934. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, I mean, you can claim that as a victory. You know what I mean?
Let's be honest. It was way better than we were expecting. It was way better.
Yeah.
You know, the media had built up everybody to believe the bullshit and the hype. You know, so I'm glad it didn't turn out that way.
Well, we're having an election, as we said today, in Victoria. So this is a state election. So this is like you know how you have the governor's race, okay? So the thing is that we don't have our elections all on the same day at the same time. They're spread out all over the place. So we had our national one, about 4 months ago, and now we're having one for the state of Victoria. So if you live in Victoria, so it's the equivalent of, Florida. It's just that we still obviously vote in a parliamentary way rather than you vote for the governor and all the rest of it. But the interesting thing is that the right-wing media have been pushing the idea that the progressives, I'll use the American terms because it's easier, because the Australian terms don't make sense. The progressives, are going to get slaughtered, like the idea of red wave, even though the colours are reversed in Australia. But, so there's going to be a wave of conservatism because everyone's sick of the way the progressives had lockdown after lockdown, and oh my God, they forced people to have vaccinations. This is terrible. How dare we have 93% vaccination rate? It's absolutely appalling, and they're fighting all of this. And the numbers came out yesterday. So the election is today. The numbers came out yesterday, and I had to take a quick snapshot of it because I wanted to just let you know. The Progressives, 38% of the vote currently. The Greens, 12% of the vote currently. The Conservatives, 35% of the vote. And others, which is basically Teals, Reason, Liberal Democrats, Independents, and all the other 201 parties that we have that run, okay? They make up a collective amount of about 15%. But because we have a preferential system in Australia, so it's like, you choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you don't get your first choice, you get your second choice and down the line. When you actually calculate those numbers out, Progressives, 54.5%, Conservatives, 45.5%, which actually means the Progressives have gained ground, not lost it. So, to all of these Conservatives who thought that, because of all the lockdowns and the forced vaccinations, they were going to kit the Progressives, it looks like that may not happen. It looks like people actually, you know what? You saved my grandparents' life. You know what?
Yeah.
I think it's good that we're all vaccinated, and I don't think they're going to punish the government anywhere near as hard as the Conservatives think is going to happen. So, but we'll find out tonight. Well, tonight my time, when I sit back and watch the election coverage. So yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you a small insight into what's happening into politics where I live. But
well, that's actually pretty exciting.
Well,
so.
It is. If the Progressives hold their ground when it's looking like they will, it means that Australia will have a progressive national government, and where I live in Victoria will have a progressive state government. So it's pretty good. That's cheers and lollipops and rainbows all around. So. So that's
rainbows and lollipops and sorry. That's the third time I've sung for you today.
And very good it was too.
Yeah, you didn't have to say that just because we're on the air, but thank you.
Well,
now everybody's going, what the hell are they talking about?
I know. But
I made him sit and listen to music that I was singing so that he could tell me if I wanted to record something. That's all.
Yes.
So I gave him a mini concert that he didn't have a choice in.
No, it was mandated.
It was, yeah. It was by decree.
Yes.
The mouse in my pocket.
But it was
decreed it so.
But it was very good.
So let it.
Very good.
It was very dramatic, is what it was. No.
It was excellent. But
anyway,
I wanted to tell you something, and then I thought, but I might have to take a quick break if that's all right, and then come back. But I had an experience on the telephone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking to the electricity company the other day. I was talking, it was not a big deal or anything like that. I just there was an issue with how I was being billed. They were making an error which needed to be fixed up, and I don't even know why I'm going down that. Just forget all of that. I was on the phone talking to the electricity company. And anyway, I was speaking to the lady who's on the other end of the line, okay? And for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but one of us must have lowered our voice. And then the other one lowered their voice, and then the other one lowered their voice, and the other one lowered their... Until we were quite literally talking to each other like... Oh, can I ask you about the rates on this electricity?
So were you whispering, or were you going lower frequencies until like only dogs could hear you?
Well, yeah, no, it was you know like that.
That'd be a higher frequency.
Oh, okay, yeah, yes, but you know like that idea that like when people want to sound sexier, they sort of their voice gets much deeper and lower and. Not that my voice does that. My voice just sounds stupid. But
in France, out of all, this is. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I have information. I have a side note based on that.
Mm-hmm.
They did surveys of people preferring the tones of women's voices, whether high or low, and the only country in the world that preferred a lower toned female voice was France, because they love it when you talk like this. Yes.
Ah.
They love a woman who sounds like she smokes 3 packs of cigarettes with no filter a day. That is what they like. Apparently, I don't know.
But I
feel like I should be good there.
but that's what this conversation was like. Every time one of us would seem to go down and the other one would go down and the other one would go... Until the end, we were sounding like we were in a French black and white movie. I don't know how it happened, but it just kept.
Bonjour.
Yes, it just kept. And in the end, this. I don't know.
Je m'appelle Vivian. Sorry, I'm gonna stop.
But it was just. I literally when we got to the end, and I hung up the phone, and I was sort of thinking to myself, that was the weirdest conversation I've ever had. Because I don't know how it happened. It just we kept like...
Maybe you were all subconsciously trying to prove your masculinity over the other by deepening your tone each time. No, I am more manly than you. No, I am more manly than you. But it was passive aggressive.
No, it was
you were
woman.
Just talking about toast or something.
No, it wasn't a man. It was a woman. It was a woman. It wasn't a man. But although not that it was.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, was she French?
I'm starting to suspect she probably was. But
here's how you know. Was she dead? Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. That's an old joke.
Oh, okay.
It's an old Steve Martin. I'm sorry. It was terrible.
Oh, okay. But it was.
How do you know they are French? Because they are dead. I don't know. Because French is a dead language. I don't know. It was a stupid ass joke.
It doesn't. I was about to say,
and I shouldn't have even mentioned it.
I try to work out what that's based on because they're dead. I don't like what. What's what. I don't know.
I don't know what most things are based on. I just fake it. So yeah, I don't know. Did you need to take a break?
Yes. Can we just take?
Because now I need to take a break.
Yes. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. And we are back. And this was actually pretty quick. Sometimes when we sort of said, and we're back, it's been half an hour later. But this actually was only a couple of minutes. So
I know, because we were actually trying to be actively better about about having lovely, fun conversation without recording, because we waste all our best material. And then I say something clever, and then if we come back on the air and I say it again, it just sounds put on and fake. So, at least to you. And I know that it's not real. So,
right. Okay. But we've had some of the best conversations that should have been recorded that have
on
never
bathroom
been recorded.
Breaks.
I know.
Well, no, not on them.
Well, no.
I didn't take the phone or the microphone with me to the restroom.
Yes. Podcasting from the... No,
too much information here,
yes,
okay?
I know,
we need to move on.
But But you were saying something about like we were talking about the phone call that I'd had with the electricity company, and
So then I forgot it was the electricity company, which I think was actually very funny.
Right.
Because what I was thinking is, if you were speaking of, okay, I can't remember the way I was going to say this, speaking and like lowering your voice of a whisper. Okay, now not on the phone, but in person. That's a personal tactic. That is neurolinguistic programming. Pardon me, tongue-tied. In a way to make people lean in closer to you and listen to you if you speak softly. It was a thing that Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis used. When she spoke very softly. And she did that, and she had admitted this at one point, so that people would listen to her. So that they would have to lean in and be quiet so that they could hear her speak.
Wow.
So if you were on a date and you wanted to get closer, lowering your voice and talking more in a whisper might be intriguing and way to do that. I don't know.
Interesting. That's
I don't know.
Very interesting.
You could just call me Hitch. Like, I don't know.
Well, I have to remember when I was younger, I had been on dates where I couldn't hear what they were saying, and I always just assumed it was because I was deaf. But maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Well, if you've never noticed, and I hate to bring her up, Ivanka Trump,
right?
She does the same thing. She speaks in this soft, very feminine voice because she, again, has learned that is how you make people stop and lean in to listen to you. Okay. So if you get their attention, especially as a woman, if you speak softly like that and you're speaking to a man and you reach up, and I'm giving away all my best secrets now, but you reach up and you barely touch them. You touch them just a little bit on the lapel, on the chest, a brief split-second touch. It kind of scrambles men's hard drives.
Okay.
When you're speaking softly and close to them and then you touch them on their hand or their chest, and it doesn't have to be sexual. That's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be. But if you look them right in the face and you touch them when you speak to them, but you're speaking softly, you'll get anything you want.
Okay.
I know this because I've gotten in back doors of concerts and stuff just from the bouncers. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't a groupie, but I wanted to go through the kitchen area to get into a concert, and I wasn't supposed to be there, but I walked up to the guy and act like I belonged there and touched him on the chest when I was speaking. He just let me right through. So, and that's not the first time that's happened. Yes. So that's a message also to any of you of the male persuasion out there whose brains get scrambled when a pretty girl touches you. They don't even actually have to be pretty. They just have to have that charm, that something, that it. And you touch a man when you're speaking, that's all you need to do.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I'm going to...
Is it interesting? Or are you rolling your eyes?
No, I'm taking notes.
So some women do speak softly in order to be heard. And a lot of people take that as they're shy or they're just so soft-spoken. No, they're manipulating you. Okay? That's what's happening.
That is very interesting. It was interesting you brought up... I don't want to really talk about it, but she's a horrible person. Trump's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ivanka. Because I want to specify not Tiffany, although I don't know Tiffany, and she could also be awful. I don't know. I don't know Ivanka either. But I just have seen. Yeah.
I'm only going off.
I'm making assumptions.
Yeah, look, I'm only going off her.
Based on facts.
Her behaviour during the 4 years in the presidency. That's all. But the thing is that when she talks, she sounds, even when she's just having a normal conversation, it sounds like she's reading a script. She has a I don't know, is that cadence in the way that she speaks or something?
It is a cadence, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
You don't hear a lot of people speak the way she speaks. There's very deliberate pauses between words, and it's quite like I don't hear many people speak the way she does.
Well, are you speaking of because I don't listen to her that much. I'll be honest with you.
No.
And because I just can't. my eyes roll back in my head, and I want to maybe like go into a coma. I don't know whether or not she does that to be slow and deliberate when she's reading something to say, like if she has prepared remarks, or if she speaks that way to be slow and deliberate because she's trying to be exceptionally careful about the way she responds. I don't know.
It could It could actually be the latter, because there's an ex football player who became, one of these football commentary celebrity type people in Australia called Sam Newman. He's an absolute dickwad. He's an idiot. I can't stand the man. He wanted to fight the government a year ago because of lockdowns, because Diddums couldn't play golf.
Like fisticuffs?
Well, no. But it's a little bit. He didn't care if people died because he wanted to play golf, and he was more than happy to have people die so he could play golf. He was an absolute prick. But anyway, that's the point. But when he used to be on, I don't think he's not even on the television anymore, I don't think, but when he used to be on the television, he would speak, he would explain that the game is something that you would watch. Like, he had a very, and it's the same way of speaking that she has. Like there's gaps between the words, and it is interesting. Are they actually speaking that way to make sure they don't say anything in error, or they don't stutter, or they don't? Because it's like, like when you and I talk, we talk at speed, and sometimes a word doesn't quite come out right, or we stutter a bit, or because what I mean is we're human beings. It's the way we talk. At
the bare minimum, yes. For me, yes.
And I wonder whether that's what it is. I think you're 100% right, actually.
I think it's twofold. I think it is that they're being slow and deliberate, but I also think it's another tactic, because pauses between words, as long as they're not too long, which make people uncomfortable and frustrated, but small pauses between words, again, make people lean in anticipation of what you're going to say, especially if you're doing it quietly. So if you learn it perfectly, you'll take just the right amount of time when you take a dramatic pause like that, where you might be thinking of something to say specifically, but you might also be speaking slowly and with intent to make sure people are listening. Because women who speak like this in a professional setting are manipulating you. That's what's happening. You notice that I don't talk like that because I don't give a shit. I will tell you straight to your face. I don't need to try to manipulate you.
It's very interesting. I'm probably never going to hear Ivanka Trump talk again, to be honest. But
one could hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because she's supposedly out of politics now, and
that doesn't mean we won't have to listen to her speak. Blah.
Well, but living in Australia, I think there's probably no chance of hearing from her again. But obviously, you might in America. But
there you are trying to get me to move to Australia again.
Hey, come on, move! Woohoo! Hey, progressive governments all around. Woohoo! And well, this is the other thing too, because in Australia, we have, we've talked about this before, our left is a lot more left than your left, and our right isn't as right as your right.
They're like our Democrats, like our centrist Dems, right?
They used to be they used to be
and
like
a little bit more crazy.
But they are now getting a bit more crazy and moving a bit more to the right. They're trying to kind of copy a lot of Republican ideas and stuff, which is... But the problem is, for them anyway, not for me, I think it's great. I want them to do more of it, because the more they do it, the more they lose. The more they try to embrace this sort of stuff, because Australians are very similar to Americans, but we're also different. And Australians don't like extremes. We hate extremes. except for the weather. You know? But we hate extremes. We like everything to be straight down the middle. And if a political party ever goes too far to the right or too far to the left as well, what we call the left, they lose. They always lose. But where I was,
well, I mean, are your sides also flipped around backwards over there? Is your left on our right and our right? I'm sorry, I had to do that. I'm sorry.
Well, actually, you know
that was rude.
No, you're not
I interrupted for a stupid joke.
You're not that far off, because you know the colour of our conservatives. The colour of our conservatives is blue, and the colour of our progressives is red.
That used to be that way in America.
Oh,
and
did
then
it?
I don't know. It did, and there was a news channel that changed it back in the 70s or early 80s. I can't remember, but for some reason it got flipped then, and it stuck.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, but it's kind of like the conservatives used to be the Democrats, and the liberals used to be the Republicans, and then they flipped too when the yellow dog Democrats. Once they started trying to give rights to minorities and stuff, people we had a lot of those people started moving around and shifting.
I still think. I mean, I've known this for quite a while, but when I did first learn it, like 20 years ago or something, I was quite stunned that Nixon personally believed in universal health care. He wanted America to have a universal healthcare system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah, he did. Except he also hated black people.
Yeah. Well,
and
I know.
Jewish people.
I know.
Let's.
I'm not trying to say
we
he's
can
a nice
talk about
guy.
his progressive policies, and then if we do that, then we have to talk about the inherent racism within the progressive policies from the time of their inception. So, do we really want to do that today? I don't know.
Probably not. No, I don't think so. I don't
because
think
I've been studying it for a very long time, and let me tell you something, it's quite disappointing.
Well, I was shocked. Do you know what? You know how they say what's that old line? Don't meet your heroes. And there's been a couple of times that's happened to me where I have met some people and I've gone, I kind of wish I never had. Because
me
they
too,
turn
sometimes.
out to be not who you thought they were. And
Yep.
but one of the I was always, as a kid growing up, I loved Jimmy Stewart. I thought Jimmy Stewart was just so fantastic. I just loved every movie he was in. If there was ever a movie on the Late Show, if you're allowed to stay up, late enough to watch it, an old black and white movie with him in it, or if there was, a Sunday afternoon, some old movie from the 1950s and he was in it, and I just loved it. I loved the man. And then I found out quite recently that he was a racist old bastard. And, and it really, it's like, don't meet your heroes, because it's just now I can't watch his films,
Oh, yeah, no, I can completely understand that. Let me tell you the story about Jerry Lewis. Did I tell you the story about Jerry Lewis?
No, not about Jerry Lewis, no.
Let me tell you the story about Jerry Lewis. And now that he's passed on, I don't mind telling this because I told it when he was alive, because I don't give a shit about speaking ill of the dead, okay? If people deserved it when they were alive, they deserve it after they're dead, too.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Here's the thing. Jerry Lewis was a legend and an icon, okay? And when he first came to work and direct an episode of the show Superforce, I was on break from college at the time, and I was down here in Orlando, and my mother was casting that show, okay? She was in the Universal Studios building here in the production offices, and she told me the story about him coming into the office and walking down the hall and looking for her, and he's calling her name out in that legendary, goofy Jerry Lewis voice, okay? Yeah. Hey, lady, that kind of weird thing. But he was yelling, Patty, he's going down and he was being really that thing that made him famous, okay? And she went on and on about how nice he was and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so while I was on break, there was an opportunity to work as an extra on the set that he was directing, okay, that night. And it was an overnight shoot at a water park here in Orlando because it was set in a water park. So we were shooting day for night. And so it was nighttime and they had everything all lit up like it was daytime.
Yep.
And it was raining. And it was like 18 hours of shooting. Okay, and it was chilly outside. It was like 50 degrees. And so we're all there, and there's tons of people because it's a packed water park for this. And they're all extras. They're all being paid. And we're shooting, and you can hear him going action and cut, and they're doing the whole thing. And at one point, all of a sudden, the cameras are rolling, and he starts screaming. He goes, "Who the fuck yelled cut? I am the goddamn director. Nobody on this fucking set says cut but me. Do you fucking understand?" He's just screeching and cussing and losing his mind on the set. And I don't know what happened. Apparently somebody thought they heard cut, or the first AD said it, and the camera guys cut. And Jerry Lewis lost his goddamn mind. And I can tell you from that instance that watching somebody like that, who I had grown up seeing in silly movies, The Nutty Professor and shit like that, seeing him behave in that manner shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It was my first experience watching a celebrity, like a legendary celebrity, fucking meltdown. Now, it's happened since then, but they're not really legendary celebrities, because we could talk about Judge Reinhold for a long time. Okay? But seeing Jerry Lewis lose his shit like that was nuts. And you just never know when somebody's gonna go off the rails. Somebody like that. So, and you just don't expect them to be like that. So hearing that Jimmy Stewart is a racist isn't that surprising. I had to accept the same thing about John Wayne. Because I grew up watching his movies and fucking loving him. The Quiet Man.
Yep.
Tons and tons of his westerns and stuff. I grew up. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You want to talk about a couple of racists in a movie there? We got Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so it's a shame because I understand it was a different time, but that doesn't make them any less assholes. Like I don't care what time it was. It was always wrong to be a racist dick. So yeah, it's hard to see that kind of stuff. You know, Jerry Lewis wasn't a racist as far as I knew, but he was just an asshole.
Well, there are a lot of people obviously who are just assholes. Yeah. I mean, it is a shame because it's especially when you have these beloved people from that you kind of grew up with or grow up with, and then and then you find out something, or I'm not going to mention who the actor was, but I got to interview on another podcast, and are
you cheating on me with another podcast?
No.
I'm sorry.
This was before you, darling.
You had previous podcasts like before me.
That's right. And they were as mad as a cut snake. They were just absolutely nuts. And nice enough. Don't get me wrong. They were nice enough, but wow, it's like. Hey,
be careful now. Wow. You're talking to a girl who's on the edge all the time. Behave.
Oh this was anyway. I won't say who they are. I don't want to do that.
No, you should not. No, no. I think I know.
Because this is someone who is still alive, so I won't. But luckily, yeah. Anyway. So yeah, but it is interesting that they say
you almost sounded disappointed when you said that. So I'm just gonna. But they were still alive.
Oh no, God, no, like, no!
Damn it!
I didn't. Oh no, I didn't mean that. Because they are actually.
Well, that's a shame. That would have been more interesting of a conversation.
No, just this person is actually an extremely nice, charitable person. So no, they're absolutely It's just that.
Well, no, that's fine.
But they're just Looney Tunes. That's all.
I was going to say, just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're mean. Not everybody's like me. Crazy and mean.
Another thing too, I just wanted to say before I forget too, as otherwise I will forget, is because of course it is the election in Australia today, so of course it's Democracy Sausage Day. Everyone has to have their
awful democracy sausage.
So I didn't get my democracy sausage because Well, okay, because
Your vote doesn't count now. I'm sorry.
Well, because it's my own fault. Because I parked the car to go into the polling booth, and and it was. Anyway, no, that story will take far too long to tell. But anyway, so I got there, so I voted and all the rest of it. And as I left, there's the sausage sizzle and all the rest of it. And as I walked past, and this lovely young lady said to me, "Oh, would you like a sausage?" And I sort of said, "Oh yeah, okay." And I suddenly went, I left my phone in the car. Oh, all right. I have to use my wallet.
So you didn't go back and get it?
I'll have to use my, card. Like my wallet. But I left my wallet in my car, so I had nothing on me. I didn't have my wallet. I didn't have anything with me. All I had in my pocket was a mask. That was absolutely it. And I thought, oh bugger. Oh, sorry. No. I'll have to miss it. So I didn't get my democracy sausage. So.
I'm sorry.
Because you don't need a wallet in Australia. You don't have to show ID to vote or anything like that. You just get your name ticked off a box. So
yeah.
I didn't. I'd left it all in the car, and I thought, and yeah, I didn't go. I could have gone back, but I thought, no, I can't be bothered.
So that was your choice, and now you're whining about it. Oh my gosh! No,
yes, I know. I'm such a boy, aren't I?
No. Listen, I make terrible choices all the time, and then I expect people to listen to me whine about them. So I understand. Yes. I am here for you, friend.
So I
am sorry that you couldn't get your white bread sausage.
I didn't get my white bread sausage with onions and tomato sauce. It's
yeah.
I know, but
I showed you that picture of the Chicago dog that I had here, and you agreed it was way better. And I would like to suggest that the Chicago dog, in Chicago being the home of like union freedom and like a progressive bastion, maybe you guys should adopt the Chicago dog instead of white bread.
But the sausage sizzle is a very Australian thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you. No.
even though it is probably for anyone who doesn't know what it is, who's listening to this podcast in Australia, it is a sausage, and it is just a standard everyday basic sausage, generally lamb or beef or a mixture, which then is cooked on a flat grill, if you like, and it is put into a piece of flat, square white bread, and then you put onions, which have been cooked on the grill with it, and then you put tomato sauce or tomato ketchup, although tomato sauce does actually taste a little bit different to tomato ketchup. It's not exactly the same thing. And you put that on. That's right. And it's tradition in Australia that when you vote, wherever you vote, there is a sausage sizzle, and after you voted, you go and get your sausage, and they're called democracy sausages. So first time in probably 25 years, I haven't had a democracy sausage. It's really... Anyway, that's
you're beating yourself up about it now, aren't you?
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
It's because it's an Australian tradition, Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
That's the other thing that happened with the democracy sausage. You know how I posted a picture, because I don't do selfies very much, especially not post-COVID. But I posted a selfie.
I saw your selfie
of me going off to vote today. Okay, and I put in there, hi guys, off to vote and time to get my democracy sausage. And anyway, and somebody
lied.
And yeah, I know, I didn't actually get it. I know. I did vote, but I didn't get the democracy sausage. But anyway, you will not believe who someone messaged me back. And who messaged me back was Democracy Sausage. Okay, this is an actual Twitter account called Democracy Sausage. And do you know what they wanted to know? They said, let us know which booth, in other words, what voting, where you went to vote. And it says what booth you visited and what you found, so we can add it to the Democracy Sausage map. Right. So,
shit.
so this is the thing, right? In Australia, there is you can log on to a democracy sausage map and find out what voting booths have what type of democracy sausages. Because one might have some pork sausages, one might have beef sausages. Well, you can find out which one. Because they also do, because obviously we live in a modern world, you can get vegetarian, you can get halal, you can get kosher, sausages. So,
I prefer a kosher or halal if I'm going to do something because they're, they come from a clean place.
Well, yeah, well, they have to do that now because otherwise they cut a huge amount of the population out of the democracy sausage experience.
Absolutely.
But what's great about it is that there is now a map. So like if every seat, every electoral area, look, where I live, my seat, I think, has about 50 different polling stations you can go to. So there's quite, it wouldn't be 50, sorry, it'd be about 20 that you can go to. So I can log onto a map and actually have a look at each of those 20 polling booths to maybe see who has vegetarian sausages, who has pork sausages, who has halal sausages.
That's nice, actually.
I think it is such a cool thing. And,
convenient.
I love the way that this democracy sausage is now becoming more important than electing the government.
Well, now, then you're becoming America, and that's not funny.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
You definitely don't want to do that.
Well, we don't. You have to vote, or you get fined if you don't vote. So,
Now I want a Chicago dog. See what you've done. It's 1 a.m. What am I going to do now? Portillo's isn't open.
Can you get them home delivered, or?
Portillo's does deliver a box of 50 that you can get. It's home delivery, and it's like you got to put them together yourself, and it's not the same. Oh, no, I'd rather just wait till tomorrow and go over there and get one. Yeah.
There you go.
Because they're pretty damn good. I'm going to ask them for some sponsorship money now because I mentioned them. That's all.
Ah, yes. Yes. Oh, I sponsorship. I did. I fell for a cult. I joined a cult.
Oh no!
Week. And the cult is.
Say it isn't so.
I bought myself an Amiga moon swatch. All of the hype that's been going on, about these moon swatches.
I don't know about the moon swatches, but you and I have discussed the Swatch watches. Yeah. We have. So,
there was a collaboration between Amiga and Swatch, and they've produced all of these watches, which are copies of the Amiga Man on the Moon, the watches that the Apollo astronauts wore, with the exception of Dave Scott, who wore a Bulova. And that's amazing. I know that, but. Yeah. Anyway, I just know this shit. Anyway, so they made them. But when they were first released, people had to camp outside the stores, and there were. I saw video footage of the Edinburgh Swatch store, and the queue was 2 kilometres long.
Well,
right?
There's one thing that people in Great Britain know how to do. It's queue. So
yes, this is very true. But it's anyway. I finally got one. I found an online dealer who they put a markup on it because they actually had to go and try to track them down.
Sure, they're the middleman. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that. I'm paying them for their time, and I'm no problems with that at all. And yes, I finally got one. So I joined the cult. I finally got an Amiga Moon Swatch. And then I got a second one. So I really did join the cult.
Oh, is that for me then?
Yes.
You can send them along with my Tim Tams next time.
Oh, yes, you're due for another Tim Tam.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It took me forever to get through those because I did hide away one package of the originals in the freezer. And I threatened Noah within an inch of his life. Serious bodily harm if you touch them. So I was able to spread those out, just taking one out and letting it thaw a bit. So, yeah, it's been a while. But, I can send you more terrible American food if you'd like.
Oh, I know some of those sauces. Your sauces are pretty good.
Oh, no, I could send you better sauces, but yeah. Did I send you pick a pepper? I hope I did.
I'm not too
because
sure.
that's
I've used
a meat sauce.
All the sauces you've sent, I've actually used, as in
I just couldn't remember if I sent you that.
So,
well, then you're due for another one too. So, and see, now everybody can listen to us banter back and forth about food and what we're sending each other.
But I do actually have to ask you something very, very important. Did you see, although you may not have, because I think you'd fallen a bit behind, the latest episode of Doctor Who, The Regeneration?
Okay. No, we have discussed this, and I've seen that this is happening, okay? But let me say to you, again, I went through a loss with Matt Smith, and it took me a lot because I lost Clara, and then I lost him. And then Peter Capaldi came, and I was like, he's different, but I like him. And I loved his eyebrows, and we had Clara. And then we went on to do some other things, and I did not watch the final episode of Peter Capaldi because, let me explain, I cannot go through another loss like that. So I have to sadly admit, and I'm ashamed to admit, that I had not watched any of the new Doctor that was female, and I can't remember her name now because I've had too much to drink. Okay,
Jodie.
I haven't watched any of it because I couldn't move on. I didn't watch the Christmas episode of Peter Capaldi. So it's something I'm working on. It's like the anxiety and stress and sadness of losing a dear, imaginary, fictional character. I just can't take that kind of loss again.
Well, something special is going to happen next
I know
year.
what's going to happen. He's coming back. Yeah, I know what's coming. Yeah.
We're going to literally, I think they are literally next year going to bring back virtually everyone who is still alive who has ever been on Doctor Who is going to make an appearance next year.
Yes.
Because it's the 60th anniversary, and I think there were a lot of people who were a bit let down by the 50th anniversary. I think they were expecting more than they got, although it was still a wonderful show. But they were expecting a lot more people from the past to make returns, and they simply didn't. All we really got was Rose Tyler for a very short period of time, Billy Piper, and we got David Tennant, and that was it.
Bad Wolf, right? Bad Wolf.
Yeah, Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is that we'll get we're going to get a whole heap because I follow Karen Gillan on social media.
I know you do.
Of course, who wouldn't? She released photographs of filming for next year, so we know that she's making a comeback.
Come on. Amelia Pond was one of the epic characters on that show.
Amelia Pond, I still think Amelia Pond, so Karen Gillan and Matt Smith were the best. Of all of the companions with doctors, for me, there was something about the chemistry between those two that just worked so well.
From the fish fingers and custard episode, I agree.
Yes, it worked so well. Although I have to admit, if you want to go back to the 1960s, I do think
I don't. unless it's in dress.
Yes. Sorry, I just got that. Yes. The second Doctor, not Hartnell.
Is that the one with the scarf?
No, that's the fourth Doctor. Although Elizabeth Sladen and him, Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor with Sarah Jane Smith, I think they were an amazing combination as well. And Jamie and the second Doctor, but that's going back to black and white. They were an amazing pairing. But I actually think, that there are some pairings that they just work so well.
They were epic, yeah.
The character, the actors just seem to really bond really, really well. So
like River Song and Matt Smith.
Yes.
I'm sorry, they were fantastic, but I loved her with Peter Capaldi too.
I think she was better. I think she was better with Peter Capaldi, actually.
No, I do, because I think their energies matched each other very well. Yeah, I do. I really think there was. I think probably that Peter Capaldi and River Song were probably my favorite combination, because there was actually my favorite episode of that, and I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. It was a two-parter, and he was trapped behind the diamond wall.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And those 2 episodes, and I think probably the second one, if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been a while now since I've seen it. I think that was the one that was my favorite of the 2. But honestly, those episodes broke me. Like, realizing what he had gone through. And as long as he was there to break through that wall. And if you haven't watched the show, I'm sorry that we're talking about things you don't know, but it's not my fault. So go watch it.
I have a sneaking suspicion anyone that listens to us probably has watched Doctor Who. I just think the mindset's going to be the same. You know what I mean?
You know what? I don't know because, I don't know. Because I have some friends that listen that I probably know never have watched Doctor Who. Although it's odd for me to be friends with people who aren't complete geeks. Because I do love me some geeks. So, I have always been a geek girl.
and
massive
Magnum,
nerd.
But talking about TV, I don't know, did we talk about this before or not? I don't. Magnum is coming back. It's not over.
Yes,
it's
it
coming
is.
back.
It is. No, I know it's not over, but they made that last episode just in case they got ended. But
yes.
they didn't.
Yeah, so because I'd heard that it had ended, but now it's been picked back up, a bit like the way Brooklyn Nine-Nine ended and then got picked up again.
I know. I know a little bit of because they did get picked up, but I know a little inside info on that.
Oh,
did you know that during this entire time, up until now, when they were shooting, the 3 main male characters, Magnum, Rick, and TC, were all sharing an apartment in Hawaii? That they were putting them up and they all had to share. Now, it was a nice place, but they were all sharing. Now, this time, because they reworked their deals, Magnum has his own place. He's moved up. Wow. So that's a little insider information there for you. I know it doesn't matter, but yeah, now he's got his own. I would it's contract negotiations.
Yes, well, but I would have thought that that show would have been big enough that they wouldn't have all lumped him into the same hotel room. Do you know what I mean? Like,
every dollar you spend on something off camera is money you can't spend on camera.
Yes,
so,
I guess, yeah.
When you don't know if your show's going to make it, you cut corners where you can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's stunning. I mean, I would talk about this before. You know, it's terribly written and stuff like that. But I adore the new Magnum PI, even though it's terribly written. But it's also one of those shows.
It's gotten a little better.
It has, but the other thing too is the pilot episode. So the very first episode is terrible. It's the worst of all of the actual episodes. It's just like
that's typical.
But if you watch the pilot of the original Magnum PI, it's actually a good episode. Whereas the remake pilot was not good. It was, and although it's kind of telling the same story in a really rough roundabout way, it made differences. I don't know.
Yeah, and to me, when you reboot a show like that was iconic in and of itself, and that show was. They took the time, the original, to write a good pilot. That show had depth. Those characters had depth. The storylines had depth. That's not really the case in the new one. They are getting better. But in a pilot episode is kind of where you feel out your audience. So almost always, in almost all instances, a pilot episode will be the worst episode in the show. And you get kind of into the groove as you go along. But forgot what I was going to say something specifically about this, and then I just started talking about the pilot thing and went right out of my freaking head. Oh my God, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But the thing I have to admit, like in the original one, the thing that I liked is that the friendship between, so the 3 Vietnam veterans, so not including Higgins, was, because obviously, was that the friendship seemed more real. Like for instance, they're friends, they're there for each other, you know, they love each other dearly, but at the same time, there is a limit to how much money TC will spend on Magnum. Like, there is a point, right? And that's what, like, as in real people. But in the remake, it's a little bit like TC complains about it, but he doesn't, like, it's not the same. It's a little bit, I need you to fly your helicopter and trailer car. And he'll sort of say, And he'd go, oh yeah, and he would just do it. Where like there would have to be in the original one a negotiation all the time. Like, when are you going to pay my bills? And the other thing too is that Magnum would often let TC down. Like, he'd let him down a lot, and that's not in the new one. It's like
no. They've softened it up a lot. I remember what I was going to say now. I was going to relate it to a reboot like this. To me, the disappointment that you kind of get with it not living up to the original version is akin to me when you have because I was just talking about this earlier, I think on Twitter, when you have a long-awaited sequel from a beloved movie, and people have been waiting and begging for the sequel, and it comes out, and it's been 10 years, and they've been asking for the sequel for 10 years, but when it comes out, it's half-assed and not thought through. And it has none of the charm that the original does. And I don't know why it happens, but it seems to happen every single time. Now, if you can get 3 movies, if you can get a third one, sometimes they can redeem themselves. But to me, rebooting an old idea and an old format into a new show for today's audiences is a terrible idea, because the shows don't translate the way they used to now. Audiences are more sophisticated and they've changed, but what we've noticed too, at least I have, is that a lot of the network shows have gotten more dumbed down and more inane. It's like they're speaking to people with a 4th grade education. No offense to people with 4th grade educations.
No, but I get you.
It's just not. Yeah. There's no thought process behind the plot line. It's all just surface crap. And I can watch Magnum, but I've always loved making fun of the writing. Like I said, it's gotten better. I'm not talking about the original series, the new one. But after sitting through La Brea for 2 or 3 episodes, let me tell you something. I think the writing on Magnum is fucking brilliant now. Because I don't understand how anybody could get a show like La Brea on the air, let alone bring it back for a 2nd season. It is awful. So that's enough of me putting that show down. But yeah, I'm gonna sneeze. Hang on. I think I'm gonna sneeze. All right.
It's I think it's it's interesting about, I mean, there's always that argument about why bring things back at all. Come up with an original idea.
Yeah, there's more than 7 ideas. There really are.
But then again, I mean, a movie I love, although the concept of the story went down in my mind a little bit when I started reading the book, and that is Last of the Mohicans. And the movie version, with Daniel Day-Lewis, which I think came out in the early 80s, I adore that movie. It's just the cinematography and it's just outstanding. But the thing about it is that, but when I actually started reading, and I haven't finished the book, I'll be honest, I started reading it and I found it very hard going. I don't know how a lot of people sort of read that book and go, oh yeah, this is acceptable in 2022. I mean, people talking about other people, like, there's almost like some generic, like certain people aren't as intelligent as other people genetically, and like, I mean, I don't say that, but it's the way it's kind of like inferred.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not, I don't know. Now but I suppose
eugenics.
Oh God! But where I was going with that is that version with Daniel Day-Lewis, which I think is one of the best versions, because even though Hawkeye, is actually played by an Irishman rather than a Native American, although Hawkeye was never actually meant to be 100% Native American, but then again, that does make him Native American. Oh, I don't even know. I'll get myself in trouble. I better be careful. But because I want to say the right thing, but I'm older and I might say the wrong thing. But the thing is that Last of the Mohicans, there had been 2 other movie versions before that version. And I've seen the other 2 versions. One's in black and white and another one was made in the 1970s, I think, for a direct-to-TV movie. And they're terrible. They are absolutely terrible. So, maybe rebooting sometimes does work.
Well, I think if you can take an old concept and update it in the way that works for today's audiences, sure. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because I feel like when you take a beloved old idea and a show, like, okay, I'm going to use it for an example, the Hocus Pocus 2, the movie that just came out from Disney. And look, Hocus Pocus, the first one, wasn't my generation. It wasn't my era. It's a goofy, silly movie, but it was a cult classic, and people freaking loved it from that time period. If you were the right age, you loved that movie. So as you grew up, it meant something to you, and people have been clamoring for a sequel since it first came out, which was like 10 years ago or something. Finally, they made one. And it was flat and boring and had there was no tension in it. There was no fun in it. It was just like, take the same characters and slap them into the same area and put a song in it and move on. It's the same thing happened with to me, the sequel for Mary Poppins. Think about how long people waited for the sequel for Mary Poppins. Now, don't get me wrong. Emily Blunt played a beautiful Mary Poppins, but the story sucked. You waited all that long, all that time for a story, and they didn't even give you a good one. They started off with another animated musical number just to have one that didn't even fit into the story. Put the kid in the bathtub and do an underwater sequence. That didn't have the charm of the penguins and them going into the chalk drawing. So it was obvious from the beginning that it was, in my opinion, not thought through well, that they thought they could just slap something together and audiences would love it. Now, we all went and saw it, I think. Not all of us, but a lot of people went and saw it. But I don't know a single person that was thrilled with it, that was like, wow, this is so great. This really lived up to the original, because it didn't. It can't. So I really don't love sequels. And I think sometimes rebooting a TV series, because I have digressed here, rebooting a TV series is the same kind of thing. When they brought Heroes back, the first run of Heroes was really good, even though they missed a lot of opportunities to really do something groundbreaking with that show. And they brought it back again, and you thought, oh, this is going to be great. But they didn't even have the main characters in it anymore. Hayden Panettiere's character was gone. The whole point of the show is save the cheerleader, save the world. Where the hell is the cheerleader?
Yeah.
You can't really do that if you're going to bring back the same characters and story without addressing that stuff. And it was confusing and pointless. So it was basically a sequel to the first series, but they couldn't pull it off. So I don't know. I just don't like that stuff. And I'm going to stop complaining now. I'm going to complain about something else in a minute. So,
well, it's actually probably a good time to wrap it up. Actually, because
it's been a while. It's just been so long since we've talked.
I know. It's just that I'm going to be really selfish because election coverage is about to start in 10 minutes.
Oh, I see how it is.
So
the future of your continent and your city and is just more important than appeasing me and giving me a validation from across the planet.
Oh, I know.
I understand.
I know. I'm selfish.
I'm going to let this one go this time because I'm magnanimous and shit.
I'm just selfish like that.
I know. Like I said, I'm gonna forgive you for it this time, though.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for listening to the people that joined us for one of our many cocktails and conversations.
Lots of cocktails.
Have. Yes. So of course, if this is the first podcast you've listened to, go back to the back catalogue. Probably
give us another chance. We promise to do better. That's not true.
Probably don't go back to some of the stuff from 2020. That's terrible.
Those don't exist as far as I'm concerned. So let's not discuss that anymore.
So thank you for joining us, and of course, Irish, thank you. It's wonderful talking to you as always. It's always wonderful. So,
do I know that? Am I that transparent? Oh my God!
Oh, did I say? I'm gonna have I said that the wrong way. I meant to say Don't worry. There you go. I should
I only give you a
have
hard time because I
been speaking like Ivana Trump, and I would have got the words right.
Then you would have to speak like this, Warren.
Yes.
So that people lean in to hear you. Okay, enough of that.
We better go, otherwise I'm clearly being manipulated. So
That's what I do. Yes.
all right. No,
Sorry, not sorry.
we will be back with another podcast at sometime.
At some point, yeah.
It's an irregular podcast. It's not a set date. So
I'm an irregular kind of girl. It's fine.
Yes, it suits us. So cheers for listening,
Thank you for
guys,
listening.
and we will be back very soon.
Bye.